All right, fellas, we are hours removed from UFC Freedom 250. Ultimately, what is at the moment a once in a lifetime event, and it really did feel like that. This is going to be a very UFC heavy episode of the Lights Out podcast, deservedly so. UFC Freedom 250 had 7 fights. Zero of those 7 fights were determined by decision. Each of them had a TKO, if not a knockout. The first fight to make it to the third round, past the third round even, was the main event. Every fight before then was ended, if not in round one, then in round two. Such a great freaking show, to be honest. Just entertaining fighting. Yes, there is some controversy. Yes, there are people that don't really want to watch UFC Freedom 250 because of politics, but if you're a fight fan, this was worth it. We're talking about it from a fight fan standpoint. This was definitely a legendary MMA event. Diego Lopez opened up the show, got the TKO against Steve Garcia, and then Bo Nickel also getting the TKO against Kyle Dawkins came after. Third fight on the card was Mauricio Rufy also getting a dominant TKO against Michael Chandler. These first 3 fights, in my opinion, I wouldn't call them competitive, but they're definitely showing us, or at least giving American fighters the opportunity to win a big fight. Of course, Steve Garcia didn't do as well against Diego Lopez, which is fine because Diego Lopez is a legend at this point, even with the 2 losses to Volk. Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkins. Obviously, this was there for Bo Nickel to have a big shining moment, and that's what he had, and that's okay. And then, of course, Rufy versus Chandler was an opportunity for Chandler to do something, but Rufy just wasn't going to let Chandler have a good day. Ultimately, we saw Rufy handle business quite easily against Michael Chandler. And these are 3 fun fights to start off the card. To me, the card really starts with Josh Hokett and Sean O'Malley. Before we get there, do you have anything to say about the earlier fights, Ant?
Nah, I mean, I thought these fights were really entertaining. The first two, of course. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Diego Lopez. I thought he looked like a killer. I thought he looked. I feel like every time he fights, man, like he's one win away from a title shot. And obviously, we know he's lost to Volk already twice, so that probably will never happen. He'll probably never get another title shot until Volkanovski loses that title. And dude, it's honestly, where do we go from here? I mean, do we give Lopez a title eliminator? I mean, do we give him Mosar Evilov, or do we give him Arnold Allen? I mean, I think we should get a title eliminator here, man. Maybe we should get the trilogy fight between Volk and Lopez, but I don't know. And then Nickel beating Kyle Dawkins was honestly insane. I thought Bo Nickel honestly was going to go for more of a grappling style because obviously that's what he usually does. But no, he got the finish, man, and I all the power to him. He looked efficient. He looked professional. It was very no nonsense. Um, Dawkins did look a little slow, and Dawkins really wasn't that the type of opponent that answers the championship questions. So that was interesting. And for Bo, man, he definitely remains one of the UFC's most interesting projects, man. And that wrestling foundation he has is extremely elite. And if on the UFC matchmakers, I'd give him Roman Delicie, Brendan Allen, or even Marvin Vittori. Like those are sink or swim fights. But overall, man, great performance from Bo Nickel and great performance from Diego Lopez.
Yeah, man. Especially from Rufy knocking out Chandler as well. But these 2 fights that we have before we get to our big title fights, our double main event, if you will, um, really did feel on paper like somewhat sink or swim opportunities for 2 American fighters. Josh Hokett being one of them. Ultimately, Derek Lewis was given a White House card fight because he deserves it. And ultimately, Josh Hokett was the one that happened to be there, ready to accept the fight with the timing and everything. And it ends up being, instead of Derek Lewis's time to shine, it ends up being the true birth of Josh Hokett in the heavyweight division. Now that he's 10-0 with a big stop against Derek Lewis, who is Superman to a lot of American UFC fans. And ultimately, it's interesting because when I look at Josh Hokett and I look at everything they did, he came out to Real American, which of course is Hulk Hogan's infamous theme song. It really, the Josh Hokett experiment with UFC really seems to be, let's make a pro wrestling character in the UFC. And obviously, Josh Hokett is looking like the MAGA final boss out here. And it's definitely a heel character quite naturally, where fans want to see this guy get his ass knocked out because he kind of looks like a douche. Or maybe you respect Josh Hokett and that's fine too. But I'm getting pro wrestling vibes from Josh Hokett, and I think that's what they're trying to do, and I think it's pretty intentional. I think that's their plan to make a big star. They're gonna do this anything goes, anything can happen gimmick of a character in Josh Hokett. And as long as he keeps winning, that remains interesting. It was very interesting to see him get the knockout against Derek Lewis. Before we get into the Sean O'Malley fight, what were your thoughts on Hokett and Derek Lewis?
Yeah, I actually wanted to. I actually here's what I'm gonna do. I'll answer your question about Hokett, and then I want to go back and talk about Mauricio Rufy, if that's okay, because I forgot to mention him when we were talking about those three fights. So I mean, you hit the nail on the head, man. I think Hokett's very pro wrestling. He's very like you want to see him get his ass kicked. He's a heelish character, and obviously we haven't seen that since the Chael Sonnen days or even the Tito Ortiz days. Like there are assholes in the UFC, but like the guy that like genuinely got heat, like Josh Hokett was Chael Sonnen. So and Hokett, man, he looked good, man. He looked really good, and like we said, Derek Lewis is like the UFC Superman, right? I mean, he's very like the fans love him. He's pure entertainment. He's awesome. He's incredible. But tonight or last night definitely belonged to Josh Hokett, man. Massive statement win. You don't beat Derek Lewis by accident, and Hokett probably passed the biggest test of his career. And Lewis is definitely showing every bit of his age. Defensive issues in his gas tank continue to haunt him. And my takeaways from this are definitely now Hokett is definitely a legitimate heavyweight prospect. I would like to see him fight Alex Pereira. I think that's probably the fight to make. Or hell, even Tai Tuivasa if that fight happens, or even Spivak. Or, dude, honestly, anybody. Like, heavyweight desperately needs a character, man. And Josh Hokett is definitely that. And let me go back to Mauricio Rufy. Dude, I think Mauricio Rufy might be the breakout star of the night, bro. Like, he was explosive, aggressive, fearless against a huge name. Like Mauricio Rufy is the man right now, bro. Like, and honestly, if I don't, I would like to see him get a title shot. I think he definitely has earned his spot for a title eliminator or a title shot. And it sucks, man, because I like Michael Chandler, but I think it's time for him to kind of hang it up, man. I think maybe one more money fight for Michael Iron Mike, but I think that's it, man. Another brutal loss for Chandler. I think at some point the UFC definitely has to consider how much punishment he has taken, and honestly, I'd argue maybe he needs to retire. And my takeaways from this are definitely Rufy is definitely entering contender territory. Chandler is gatekeeping phase has pretty much begun, and I think he'll probably continue to be a gatekeeper for these future lightweights. And honestly, I would like to see Rufy fight Gamrot or even Sarukian. That'd be awesome. But yeah, man, I thought those two fights were really good. I mean, like I said, both Josh Hokett and Mauricio Rufy looked really, really good last night, man. And I truly believe that we have not seen a character like Josh Hokett since the Chael Sonnen days or even the Tito Ortiz days. But yeah,
Yeah, man. I To your point with Mauricio Rufy, I definitely think it's time for him to have a very hyper competitive fight maybe a co-main later in the year. I think that's what's next in line for Rufy. It just didn't seem very competitive to fight against Chandler. But just because, yeah, I'm using the word competitive, but just because I'm using the word competitive doesn't mean that it's not entertaining. All those TKOs were very entertaining, and it made for a very fun, once in a lifetime event. Um, but we get into Sean O'Malley now, man. Josh Hokett is an established character. He's the heavyweight heel. And then, we have Sean O'Malley with the impressive TKO against Aman Zahabi, who has one of the most unorthodox styles I've ever seen. But O'Malley handles business here. He shows that he is the truth. He has handled business against everyone except, of course, Marab. He even got a win against Chito Vera, the first guy to defeat him. And yeah, I see Sean O'Malley back on the up and up. I think Marab has defeated him twice soundly, and I think it's time to do Sean O'Malley versus Peter Yan. Of course, Peter Yan has a well deserved defense to give to Marab, and I'm sure we'll get that Marab versus Peter Yan too sooner rather than later. But after that, I think O'Malley versus Peter Yan is O'Malley's next fight. Maybe a tune-up, maybe a tune-up for O'Malley in the second half of this year, and then we get O'Malley versus Peter Yan sometime later down the road. Ultimately, I think Josh Hokett and Sean O'Malley, if they wanted to do another White House card next year, you could have those guys as main event and co-main. You could do O'Malley in the main event and Josh Hokett in the co-main. You could even do Sean Strickland, who's the current middleweight champion. If that's something they wanted to do, you have options, and this looks like it would benefit the UFC if this kind of White House event stuck around and featured, built, and showcased American fighters once a year towards the 4th of July. I think I would like to see this every year. To be honest, I don't see why not. This was such a important and special event, and you've built a star in O'Malley. Clearly, you've built a star in O'Malley for the past few years, but as of recent, more so, you've built a star in Josh Hokett as well. And then you have Strickland back on his best in the middleweight division. So you just have so many good things going down, and it was really cool to see Hokett kind of get a big upset, disappoint a lot of Derek Lewis fans, kind of play to the crowd and be a little bit of a heel. Of course, get huge flack for what he said about Michelle Obama. And then, of course, we're able to see that Sean O'Malley still has some pepper in his step and can still knock him out like he used to. So, yeah, very fun. And then we get into the co-main and main event. The co-main saw Alex Pereira, of course, the former light heavyweight champion of UFC, move up to heavyweight and face Cyril Gahn, who's probably the boogeyman of the heavyweight division in the UFC right now, especially from how impressive he looked against the current heavyweight champ Tom Aspinall before that fight was ruled a no contest. And ultimately, yes, Cyril Gahn is the one to ring true and the one to become the new UFC interim heavyweight champion by getting the knockout finish, getting the TKO against Alex Pereira in very shocking fashion. Alex Pereira has looked very dominant. He's been fighting a lot over the past couple of years, sometimes even 3 times a year. He did lose recently. He lost the light heavyweight championship recently, but he was able to win it back in the very next fight. So, yeah, man, Cyril Gahn is the real deal, and he showed us, man. Before we get to the main event, anything to say about O'Malley or Cyril Gahn?
I guess we'll talk about. I guess we'll start with O'Malley first, and then we'll kind of work our way up to Cyril. I guess we'll start with Sean. Vintage Sean O'Malley, man, sharp striking, excellent range management, and he looked like the Sean O'Malley of old almost. He looked like a contender again, and he's still a major player at bantamweight, man. And I feel like people may have written him off a little too early, especially after the setbacks to Marab. I think maybe now's the time we get a rematch between him and Jan, man. I think that would honestly be really cool. Zahabi could not get his offense going at all, and this fight felt extremely one-sided once Sean found his timing, man. And it was honestly beautiful to watch. I think O'Malley versus Jan 2 is definitely the fight to make. And as for Cyril Gahn, honestly, huge upset, man. Huge upset. I obviously, you know me, I'm a big Alex Pereira guy, so I was kind of biased toward Alex this whole fight week. But Gon is the boogeyman, dude. Honestly, like he looked like the Gon we saw from a few years ago when he fought. Obviously, when he fought John Jones, that was a little bit of a rough patch for him. But like the Gon of old, like where he would be knocking guys out, man, and it was incredible. It was insane to watch. Like his movement, his speed were the huge difference. He did not stand in front of Pereira trying to prove a point. That's the one thing I liked, and it's insane, man. Like Pereira could not get comfortable at all, man, and that's something we rarely see from Pereira. Like I think the last time we saw Pereira uncomfortable was probably when he fought Adesanya the second time. Like it was rough to watch, and dude, Gon is the guy, man, and obviously the fight to make is obviously him versus Aspinall. And if that fight is in September in Paris, that'd be pretty cool. Obviously, a lot of stakes are going to be involved. Aspinall is obviously the heavyweight champion of the world, so we'll see how that goes. But again, man, shocking, a very shocking upset, man. I really wanted Pineda to win, man, but Gon is on another fucking level, dude, and he's the boogeyman, dude. And the fight to make is definitely Aspinall and Gon. September in Paris. I want it, man. Give it to me.
Yeah, man, I agree 1,000%. Aspinall versus Gon is the fight to make. It'd be their second fight, of course. First one being a no contest, and yeah, we got to see it. And obviously, or I should say, honestly, it's not obvious. Honestly, I think Gon is gonna whoop Aspinall. Like from what I've seen over his past two fights, I think he's got that. But I guess we'll have to find out. That's another conversation for another day because we got one more fight to talk about. Not only did the co-main of UFC Freedom 250 crown an interim heavyweight champion, but the main event actually crowned an undisputed lightweight champion, as we had the interim lightweight champion, American-born, Denver-raised, Arizona-born, I believe, Justin Gaethje taking on the lightweight champion Ilya Taporia. Champion versus champion. Ilya Taporia is finally back in the UFC, and here he is defending the lightweight title against one of the cornerstones of the lightweight division in this era of UFC. And with the spirit of the United States in his corner, with the thrills of this once in a lifetime event at an all-time high in this main event, as every fight has ended in a decisive victory, and the event has overall just been unique and entertaining, right? Just and I say unique. I use the word unique probably more than I should, but goodness gracious, guys, this White House event was awesome. It was cool, man, just seeing the fighters come out from the Oval Office in the main event, but also from different parts of the White House for the earlier fights. This was an insane, unique fight, man. Like, this was so fun. I will always remember this. And you were saying this yesterday as well, and if I'm not mistaken, we are always gonna remember this event. But with the spirit of the United States at UFC Freedom 250, Justin Gaethje was able to do the unthinkable. He was able to slay the boogeyman of the featherweight slash lightweight division, currently at least, and he was able to defeat the undefeated Matador Ilya Taporia pretty soundly too. It was all Gaethje if you ask me. I think Taporia got one round on him. That's it, one round. This went to the fourth round, and ultimately the ref had to call it, and the doctors had to call it because Taporia's eye was too messed up, which I think was fine. You know, I think the safety of the fighter is of utmost importance, and he looked like he was done. But nonetheless, man, our undisputed lightweight champion is Justin Gaethje, as another American captures gold in the main event of UFC Freedom 250. What are your thoughts on this main event? And what are your thoughts on potentially getting another White House card next year and the years to come? Because I think that their UFC's on something right here.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said yesterday, I think when in that voice message I said to you, and then I said to my buddy Al, like when we go back into the history of the UFC, like I've always heard about when Matt Serra beat George St. Pierre, right? And of course, when Anderson Silva lost his title to Weidman, and now here we are, all these years later, and Ilya Taporia has now lost his crown. Like it's like what the hell? Like it's one of those moments where you're not gonna forget who you were with, who you were. Like you're not gonna forget this pay per view, this event. Like it was incredible, man. Like probably one of the biggest upsets I've ever seen in my life. And this is probably if he does retire, if Justin Gaethje does retire after this fight, if the rumors are true, what a way to cap off a career, man. What a way to cap off a career because this you just authored one of the greatest wins of your career. You weathered the early storm when Taporia appeared to be controlling the fight, and that momentum shift in round three was insane. That jab and the power punches that broke Taporia down, fucking A, man. Like, it's insane. And obviously, we can argue about how the fight maybe shouldn't have not been called or maybe it should have and I agree with you on that part. The safety of the fighter is more important because obviously Taporia cannot see at all. Like his eye was swollen, all like swollen, dude, and it was scary to watch. Like as the fight was going on, so I definitely agree with that stoppage, and definitely seeing Saporia leave for medical evaluation afterwards was definitely concerning. Um, my takeaways from this fight, dude. We always say Father Time is undefeated, but for once, Father Time has actually been ignored. For once, Gaethje proved experience, durability, and grit, and that they still matter at the highest level. And for once, man, and I never thought I'd ever say this, but Topuria finally looked human after all these fights. And honestly, where do we go from here? I mean, do we get Gaethje and Islam? I mean, is that the fight to make? Obviously, Islam's now at welterweight, but I mean, do we get that match? Do we get that double that fight like champion versus champion? Or for Taporia, do we get a rematch? I mean, honestly, who knows, man? Or hell, we can even do like BMF title, Justin Gaethje versus Oliveira. That'd be an interesting fight. But man, like what a what a way to cap off an incredible event. And now I'll answer your question about the White House. Politics aside, right? This is probably one of the coolest events I've ever seen like in my life. Like I've always heard about UFC 100. I did watch UFC 200. I was there for UFC 300. Obviously, I was there for the McGregor fights and all that. And yeah, man, but I don't but nothing like this, man. Nothing close to something like this. And it was so cool seeing the fighters walk out from different parts of the White House, like the Hall of Presidents, the Oval Office, like all of it, man. It was really, really cool. Like it's one of those things where it's like we can put politics aside and we can just enjoy the fights. Like it was incredible, man. It was awesome. And I even like I said, man, I have my opinions on I don't want to make this political at all because this is not a political show. So, but obviously, I heavily disagree with the administration. But again, I said it leading into this event. I was here mainly for the fights. I wasn't here for the other shit. I was here for the fights, man. And it was awesome. It was awesome to watch. And I really think the UFC does have something here, man. I think they really should consider doing a White House card every single year, whether it's on the 4th of July or Flag Day or even Veterans Day, man. I mean, this is something they have something special here. Besides International Fight Week, of course, like you can have a huge event on the White House, man. Like it was awesome. It was really cool. I think they should do it again, man. I would totally pay to see it again.
Yeah, man, I agree. Whether you call it UFC at the White House 2 or whether you call it UFC Freedom 251 next year, I want to see this again. And I think there are an abundance of options in which you can go for huge fights to have at next year's potential White House card. You got Sean Strickland, current champion. You have a ton of things that you can develop in a year in the lightweight and welterweight division. Whether you're building up Gaethje to go after Islam, whether you're building up Holloway to take on Gaethje, whether you're building up McGregor himself, Taporia, getting a rematch at some like there is a lot to do. And you have a lot of champions or a lot of big contenders in the case of O'Malley and Hokit that have time to further develop themselves and further develop bigger fights in those divisions, heavyweight, middleweight, lightweight, bantamweight. You can you can do so many things. Whether you give us 3 to 4 big fights at the White House instead of 7 next year, or whether you give us a big main and co-main as they did this year with a bunch of other entertaining fights with fighters they hope to feature in future White House events. There's a You can definitely design big plans around showcasing world-class American talent at the White House once a year. Whether it's one big American in the main event, whether it's a big main event and co-main event, or whether it's just 4 banger title fights, you can really make this like the potential to how awesome this can be and how well this can grow is limitless, in my opinion. And it doesn't have to be political. Like, other than Josh Hokett's little speech after his victory, I didn't feel like any of the UFC Freedom 250 was political. The ads are annoying, but those are here to stay.
Yeah, the
I'm
ads were
not here to
annoying.
talk about those.
Yeah, but I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head, bro. I mean, besides Hokett's little ramble, I mean, his little speech. I mean, I didn't feel like it was too political. I mean, the ads were definitely annoying, and I mean, like you said, but I mean, they're here to stay, man. Ads are just annoying, and it's one of those things where ads will never, probably never go away. But no, I mean, this card was fun, bro, and even like we were talking before the show, like a buddy of ours, like he hasn't watched UFC in like 8 years, bro, and even he was entertained by this. And I was watching the fights with him, and by the end of the night, bro, he was like, "Dude, I gotta watch more, man. Like, I gotta get into UFC like again." So that's what this was pretty much all about. It wasn't political, man. It was more like it was trying to unite like the fans and like try to bring like casuals into the sport, man. And I'll say it before and I'll say it again. Like, this is probably the best thing they can do. Like, besides International Fight Week and bringing back big names, like this is the one thing they can do. Like, bring the casual of casual fans that probably have only watched UFC maybe once or maybe never watched UFC. Let them watch this card, man, and let do another event at the White House and bring your friends over and just enjoy it, man. Like, that's what this was. Like, it was meant for the casual of casual fans, man, and it was awesome. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's how you do it, right? Because a UFC numbered event is a little bit more competitive. It always has been, and it's supposed to be. Um, a UFC White House card is more so, here are the fighters to root for, and here is either a big mountain for them to climb. In the case of beating Taporia, being the first person to beat Taporia, or just showcasing a Josh Hokit, showcasing a Sean O'Malley against a worthy opponent. I'm excited. I hope that this is a yearly occurrence because it should be. And then it gives more value to the numbered events instead of taking from the numbered events. It actually, ironically, gives more value to them because those slowly build up to the White House card, who we're going to see on the White House card. So I'm excited, man. I think we did that justice. The next time we're going to have a big UFC event is going to be the return of Conor McGregor in give or take about a month. So I'll definitely keep my eye on fight nights. I mean, fight night is what it is. Usually the main event is about the only competitive fight if we're lucky. But I think the numbered events are in a good place, especially with the next one having the return of McGregor, and especially with the White House card creating a lot of excitement and a lot of potential for Sean O'Malley,
Yeah.
for Josh Hoken, for Cyril Gahn,
Gage.
and for, of course, Gaethje, most
No, dude.
importantly.
All the winners definitely their stock has definitely risen. Definitely from this card. Like Diego Lopez's stock has risen. Hoke, Gaethje, everybody's dude. And I mean, my final thoughts are definitely like, I mean, the fight nights are iffy. I mean, the last couple fight nights have been pretty bad. I mean, I mean, I don't know. I mean, just from what I've heard. I mean, I haven't actually watched the fight nights, but I heard like the last couple ones weren't that great. But I mean, the numbered events are completely fine, man. It's like I think they're in a good spot, and like I said, man, this card, politics aside, like this is definitely like the best way to get somebody into the UFC. Like, go watch like for anybody that's new to the UFC, please watch this card. Like even if you don't agree with what's going on in the world right now, watch this card. Like you will not be disappointed. Like every fight was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, agreed. I agree with you 100% on that. There was one more thing that we forgot to cover from the White House card, and that was ironically Tyson Fury showing up. And of course, everybody says, "What the heck, Tyson Fury?" But after a second, because you and I are boxing fans, we start to think like, "Oh, the rumors must be true."
Oh, dude, I went there immediately.
I mean, yeah. I think I just had my UFC hat on, and I wasn't thinking. I was like, "What the hell is Tyson Fury doing here?" Um, but I do not want to talk about this too much because Tyson Fury himself said that he's going to let Dana White make a formal announcement. There's a lot that we are waiting for Dana White to formally announce in terms of boxing, right? We're waiting on Shakur Stevenson at this point. We are now waiting to see what the extent of Zuffa Boxing's involvement will be when it comes to Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, one of the most highly anticipated fights of this year. So I did want to mention that that was a huge thing, and it's a perfect segue into our announcements. We have two announcements on the Lights Out podcast, moving past UFC Freedom 250, which was excellent. Zuffa 9 Zuffa 9 is going to take place in July. Yes. And the main event and co-main event have been officially announced for Zuffa 9, which will be in New York. It looks like the main event will see Richardson Hitchens, the IBF junior welterweight champion, or formerly IBF junior welterweight champion, having his first fight in the welterweight division against Ricardo Salas, who is one of the more impressive welterweights at Zuffa. This will be a 12-round fight, and because it's a 12-round fight, I'm wondering if they're going to give Richardson Hitchens the IBF interim welterweight title just because he gave up his junior welterweight title. He never lost it. And then from there, you can kind of establish Hitchens as one of those high level welterweight guys at Zuffa. Give him some IBF hardware. Kind of seems like the IBF and Zuffa are going to be working a little more closely from this point forward. We know that Zuffa 10 will have an IBF middleweight championship fight. And here we have Richardson Hitchens, former junior welterweight champion of the IBF, fighting a 12-round fight. We don't know what that's going to look like. I wouldn't mind seeing some sort of hardware on this main event. I think Hitchens versus Salas, absolutely, while it may not get a lot of casual fans excited, will be a good fight. Hitchens is a young, good prospect, and so is Ricardo Salas, man. This is a great opportunity for him. I'm very excited to see. Also on the Zuffa 9 card will actually, not surprisingly at all, be Edgar Berlanga taking on Steven Butler in Zuffa's first ever super middleweight bout. Zuffa said they didn't want to have any junior divisions, no junior featherweight, no junior bantamweight, no junior lightweight. They're going to do it like the UFC, have no junior divisions. But here they are putting on a super middleweight bout for Edgar Berlanga. Now, let me say something about super middleweight. I think super middleweight is a division in its own, right? I think super middleweight can get a pass in terms of being an official boxing division and not a junior division. Super middleweight represents guys that are too big to be middleweight but too small to be light heavyweight, and I think it's an essential weight division in boxing. Whereas, do I think junior bantamweight is an essential weight division in boxing? I wouldn't go as far as to say that, to be honest with you. So I'm totally excited to see that Zuffa is going to have a super middleweight division. I think I think that should be the case. Um, and I'm excited to see Zuffa 9, right? Of course, I would love to get a pop surprise. Oh, Shakur Stevenson is fighting on Zuffa 9. Part of me was hoping for that, even though I knew it wasn't going to come. It would be a good time for him to fight, it being 5 months, 6 months since his last fight. But yeah, we're gonna have to watch Hitchens and Salas, and I think that is gonna be a banger. And then we'll see how Berlanga does against Stephen Butler. I'm sure he'll do fine. What are your thoughts on the Zuffa 9 announcement that came very recently?
Honestly, let's kind of start with the elephant in the room. Let's start with Edgar Berlanga. Berlanga desperately needs this fight. Obviously, his losses to Canelo and Hamza Shiraz definitely exposed some limitations, man. And after the Shiraz stoppage, he's entering rebuilding territory, and that's honestly probably not the best place to be in, especially as a top fighter. Obviously, like Berlanga came in like we were, they hyped him, and obviously he lost to Canelo, and then Hamza definitely exposed him as well. And Butler is extremely dangerous enough and definitely makes things interesting without being an elite contender. So this fight's going to be definitely very, very action based. It's both guys can obviously go the distance, and neither guy is obviously known for either a boring performance. So this is one of those classics, classic fights where somebody's going to get hurt. And I wrote on my keys to victory for Edgar Berlanga. Definitely, you got it. The number one is definitely patience. Berlanga hunts for the knockouts way too much and too aggressively. He needs to work behind the jab. He's got to set the traps and he's got to stay composed. The knockout will definitely come if he doesn't force it. For Stephen Butler, you got to turn it into chaos. Butler's best chance is making Berlanga uncomfortable. You need early pressure, big combos, make Berlanga fight on the back foot, make him get on his bicycle, make him fight backwards. And if Butler turns this into a phone booth fight, things will definitely get interesting. And my biggest question here is how much, and this is more for Berlanga, how much did the Shiraz fight affect Berlanga? I mean, physically, he's fine, but mentally, that's where we're going to learn. And I won't predict anything. I mean, actually, I did write a prediction. I have Berlanga winning by knockout in the sixth, but don't take my word on that. And then Richardson Hitchens, man. Obviously, this is honestly more intriguing than the Berlanga fight, in my opinion. Hitchens is moving up to welterweight after, like you said, vacating the IBF junior welterweight. And Salas has won six straight and enters with a lot of momentum. And it's going to be interesting, man. Obviously, new division, new challenges. We finally get to see whether Hitchens' styles translates as he moves up. And this feels like a scouting report for his future rather than a title fight. And my keys to victory are definitely, I'll start with Hitchens. You got to be Richardson Hitchens, man. Game plan is extremely simple: elite footwork, sharp counters, defensive discipline, and you got to win the rounds. You do not need to change much. And for Salas, make him uncomfortable. Nobody has constantly pressured Hitchens. You need high volume, you need constant pressure, the body attacks, and the rough inside work. And if this stays at long range, Hitchinson's gonna cruise, man. And my biggest question, and then I'll throw it back to you: does Hitchens carry his power at 147? That's the big story. We know he can box, but can he hurt the bigger fighters? That remains to be seen. We'll have to see, man. Obviously, this Zuffa 9 card is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, man, and it's Salas is quite the test. I think Salas will do everything in his power to win this match. Like I think Salas will make Hitchens quite uncomfortable, and ultimately, you got Hitchens. He hasn't lost his junior welterweight title with the IBF. He vacated it because he's moving up. I think you give him an interim title here against Salas, against a worthy opponent like Salas, and then you go ahead and you have him face the IBF welterweight champion later down the line. I would like to see it. Best case scenario, I think Zuffa, the IBF, and by default the WBO as well start to work a lot more closely. And if Ring Magazine is attached to a WBA or WBC champion, I would like to see the Zuffa belt get attached to an IBF or WBO champion, kind of like the middle class of boxing. Right, that's kind of what I'm looking to see the Zuffa belt represent, and that's kind of what all the signs are pointing to at this point in time, contrary to the past where the IBF and Zuffa really butted heads just a couple months ago. So we'll see what happens. A lot of question marks and a lot of good boxing to watch, especially with Hitchens taking on Ricardo Salas. I think that's a huge fight, and I think Salas will fill these big shoes and have a good showing in New York in Zuffa 9. Moving on here in our announcements, our second of two announcements this week actually see DAZN strengthening their boxing catalog even more by adding Boxer to the list. Boxer is officially a part of DAZN. Other than the PBC on Amazon Prime and Zuffa Boxing on Paramount Plus, I think DAZN has it all. Everyone. DAZN has everyone except Zuffa and the PBC. Zuffa and the PBC have their own thing going on. Even the PBC a lot of times ends up working with either Golden Boy or Ring Magazine, and those guys are tied to DAZN. So DAZN grows even stronger by adding Boxer, the promotion Boxer, to their catalog, and they're coming out with Troy Williamson versus Callum Simpson as Williamson defends the British and Commonwealth Super Middleweight Championship. Obviously, this is like a little bit more into deeper British boxing, but that stuff is at its peak right now. British boxing, especially local British boxing, is very much at its peak on the zone and continues to strengthen. So while we do have things evolving and growing for Zuffa in 2026 and its early existence, we also just have DAZN getting stronger and stronger. And if DAZN gets the PBC, then they will have everything in boxing, of course, except for Zuffa, right? Zuffa's kind of the opposition to everything that DAZN stands for right now. And yeah, DAZN gets stronger. What are your thoughts, man? You have any thoughts on DAZN and Boxer being a part of the catalog now, or should we move on?
I mean, I really don't. I know a little bit about Boxer. I mean, I like that the zone is strengthening their catalog, man. Obviously, like they've lost a lot, and I think this they definitely need. Well, I don't even say they lost a lot, but they definitely they needed to deepen their catalog, and they definitely did it here. Obviously, with Boxer, Boxer's a pretty big platform, and this is a good fight for the zone, man. Troy Williamson and Callum Simpson. This is going to be an interesting fight. There's genuine bad blood. The first fight was not controversial. Obviously, Williamson beat him, and now Simpson gets a chance at redemption. And on the other side, Williamson definitely gets to prove that the first fight wasn't a fluke. So this isn't a manufactured rematch. This is the kind of fight boxing needs more of. And I mean, would you like me to do keys to victory, or do you want to just kind of segue? It's up
If
to
you
you,
if
man.
you have your keys to victory, yeah, go for it, man.
All right, man. So I guess I'll start with Troy Williamson. Obviously, got to make it ugly. First fight changed when Williamson dragged Simpson into a war. Simpson was definitely winning the rounds until Williamson's pressure and power began taking over. 4 knockdowns later, the upset was complete. So obviously, carry everything you did into that first fight, but add these: constant pressure, body work. You got to force the exchanges, and you got to test Simpson's confidence early. If this becomes another firefight, Williamson gets it, man. Callum Simpson, you cannot, you have to box. You cannot brawl here. You're the younger fighter. You're quicker and you're technically cleaner, but you cannot fight emotionally because just because you want revenge. You need discipline, you need your distance control, you need a jab heavy, and you need your movement. And if you can do all that, if you can fight smart for those 12 rounds, he can definitely win with the decision. And obviously, the biggest question going in is, was the first fight a shocking upset or was it a changing of the guards? And that's why this rematch answers that question. So it's going to be interesting, man. A real interesting fight. I'm definitely going to be tuning in. Obviously, I might call you up and maybe ask to watch it because I don't have the funds. But I mean, we'll see, man. I mean, gonna be fun,
um,
man. Fun
yeah,
time.
man. Yeah, it'll be a good time, man. That fight is coming in. Let me just confirm. I believe that fight is coming in August, but let's go ahead and double check that before we move on. It will be, yes, August 8th. It will be August 8th in the UK.
Oh, I
And
can't wait, man.
yeah, man, let's move on. It's definitely looking like the world of boxing is naturally responding to the existence of Zuffa, as well as the presence of Turkey Al Sheikh as well. Of course,
Well, I mean,
we're
Matchroom as
very
well. I
much
mean,
evolving and just moving into a bigger and bigger era. We're just constantly thinking bigger and bigger.
well, what about
We
Matchroom and Queensberry?
Yeah, man. I mean,
Like,
they're just gonna keep existing. They're gonna keep giving us the best fights than they can, and they have a good incentive to put their best foot forward. We actually, not from Matchroom or Queensberry, but from Misfits, we actually saw an event with that featured Tommy Fury versus Eddie Hall, one of the biggest circus fights that I've ever seen. Um, if you don't like celebrity boxing, you definitely didn't appreciate this. And let me tell you something, I do not like celebrity boxing. But in terms of good celebrity boxing, other than the co-main kind of having this meltdown to close out the fight into a no contest, which was just quite silly. Um, this was okay, I guess. We also saw MVP Women's 4, and every champion that defended their title on the main card was able to successfully retain there. But ultimately, what our eyes were also on this weekend, other than UFC Freedom 250, more importantly, was seeing the Ring Magazine Junior Bantamweight champion Bam Rodriguez move up to bantamweight to take on the number 6 bantamweight and WBA bantamweight champion Antonio Vargas. Now, honestly, this might go down as one of the most fun fights, one of the most fun boxing matches, I should say, of 2026. Because this was very interesting, man. You got Bam moving up to bantamweight. He's obviously chasing Inoue in what would be a super fight that we don't want to miss. We see Bam really getting dismantled a little bit by Antonio Vargas. Maybe that's a little bit of a exaggeration, but at the very least we can say that Antonio Vargas was winning the fight. He was winning the fight and then bam, it's all in the name, right? He was winning the fight and then bam, Rodriguez gets the knockout. Bam successfully moves up to bantamweight and is now our WBA bantamweight champion. Very good moves for Bam. Very impressive outing for Vargas, I will say. Like, this was absolutely a competitive fight. Bam just is a knockout artist, right? That he's one of the greatest knockout artists of this generation, easily. And I'm really hoping to get the fight with Inoue. He he vacates his belts and championships at junior bantamweight, and he is now exclusively the WBA bantamweight champion. What are your thoughts on Bam? This was so fun. What are your thoughts on Bam versus Inoue, which looks to be imminent? There's no way this fight doesn't happen. I think Bam wants it. Inoue wants it because Inoue isn't afraid of anybody from what we've seen. And of course, Eddie Hearn wants it. I would like to see this matchup in Japan once again. I would wake up for a Tokyo Dome matchup between Bam and Inoue, maybe in November or December, if not January. What are your thoughts, man? Are you excited for that?
Oh, absolutely, man. And I'll say this, man. If it's in Japan, that'd be great. But I also want it back. back here in San Antonio, man. Alamo Dome doesn't get more historic than that. Obviously, the dome has held a lot of big events. Actually, there used to be a poster behind me before that UFC poster took over. There, I actually used to have a poster from what was it? Oh yeah, fucking Maidana versus Adrian Bronner. So that used to be up there on that wall. But anyways, going back to your point. Um, no, obviously I did not catch this fight because NBA Finals were happening, and obviously that all kind of went down. Unfortunately, we lost, but I did go back and rewatch the highlights. And first things first, man, Bam looked really phenomenal. I mean, moving up from 115 to 118 is never guaranteed to work, right? I mean, especially when you're fighting a reigning world champion in your debut at that weight. But instead, Bam went out and stopped Vargas and became a division champion. And Bam's power definitely carried up, man. I mean, that was obviously the biggest question entering this fight, and I think even you asked it, I believe, as well. I could be wrong. I don't remember, but would that power still be there at bantamweight? And the answer is yes. And not only was Vargas hurt repeatedly, Bam finished him with the brutal sequence, and it was beautiful to watch. And adjustments, Vargas definitely had moments early, landed some solid shots, and looked physically competitive in the opening rounds. But Bam did not panic. He adjusted and gradually took control, and that's what elite fighters do. And obviously, his ring IQ is probably one of the best we've seen in boxing. And here's what I didn't like from Bam. He got hit way more expected. It's not a big criticism. Obviously, we know you're going to get hit, right? But Vargas landed some clean punches early. And against Vargas, that's fine. But against Inoue, those same shots might get you sent to another zip code, bro. Like, we don't know, and we still don't know how he'll handle the elite bantamweights. I literally was having this conversation with my dad the day after. I said one fight at 118 isn't enough evidence for Bam. You need to keep fighting at this weight class. Bam definitely proved he belonged, but he hasn't proved he's the king yet. And no, and there's no, and don't get me wrong, there's no doubt Bam is the legit king of the three divisions. No question. There's no paper title, no weak opponents. Like, come on, man. Like, let's get that out of the way. But as far as the fight with Inoue, I don't think he's ready, man. I was like, if obviously we saw what Inoue did in Nakatani, but even if we go back to when he fought at Top Rank, like Inoue is just a whole different animal and a whole. Obviously, he's the monster for a reason, bro. Like he comes at you with all these different strikes, and I think he may be the maybe Bam maybe Bam isn't ready for it. I mean, I do have a note here that does say maybe Bam could be the only guy who gives Inoue serious problems because obviously the speed, the footwork, the angles, southpaw, and the combination. And Bam definitely has the tools that most of Inoue's opponents don't possess, but is I don't think Bam's ready, man. And it's not because he lacks talent, but again, Inoue is just a different species. And everyone looks great until they're standing across from the monster. And Inoue is proven at 122. He's already conquered multiple divisions, and like we said, Nakatani, he beat the brakes off Nakatani. So if I'm Bam, I would grow into this weight class, and we then I would like to see him fight his brother. Actually, I'd like to see him fight Takuma in a way, and then maybe then you go after the older brother. But that's just my opinion, though. I don't know. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's just my.
It makes perfect sense, man. Yeah, I would agree. Like it's questionable whether or not Bam is ready for Inoue, but ultimately, man, I think Inoue's trying to move up. I think Inoue's trying to be a featherweight, like sooner rather than later. And if that's the case, then we got to get Bam fighting at junior featherweight, like the next division up of what he just moved up to, sooner rather than later, right? Like I do think there's a lot of work for Bam to do in the bantamweight division, and honestly, I do think he will give Inoue trouble, but it's more than obvious that Inoue will give him just as much trouble back with his eyes closed. So my thing is like, we need this fight to happen. Let's close out the year with it, and then let's let Inoue move up, and then let's let Bam go back down to being a bantamweight for a while. But I can feel the urgency with this fight more than anything, man. Like there's a lot of fights that slip through our fingers as more and more days go on. But the Bam and Inoue fight, like if that doesn't happen now, dude, that may never happen. And
That's
I would
true.
rather see it than not see it.
And it's funny because like my dad told me something earlier because obviously like we watch every Bam fight and told me something real interesting. He said that Bam, according to Bam, like if he doesn't get the Inoue fight, he might just like retire. Like he might just like call it a career. Which that's now you have to make the fight. You have to make the fight. Obviously, like I said, I think my criticisms are still there. And if this fight were to happen tomorrow or this weekend, it's a 60-40 favorite for Inoue, dude. It's not overwhelming. It's not impossible, but favorite. I think Bam would win rounds, and he'd frustrate Inoue at times, but I don't know, man. I really don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I think
I would rather see it than not see it.
yeah, I
That's
know. I want to see it
I
too.
know
Obviously,
it's
yeah, me
bad
too.
timing. It's bad timing for Bam specifically, and Inoue because Inoue wants to move up. Like, why not move up?
Yeah, and I think you have to do the fight like you said in 2027 or I mean even like early 2027 or even late or or late this year or even early next year. I think that's the fight to make, man, and I think that is what we need. I think we really need this fight.
Yeah, we'll see what happens though,
We'll
man. We'll see
see.
what happens. It was definitely a joy to get Bam versus Vargas. That was a very fun fight. Like those are the type of fights that I love to watch. Those are the type of fights that fly under the radar, and those are the type of fights where somebody makes a name for themselves. And unfortunately, Vargas wasn't the winner there, but I'm definitely impressed by his performance, and I think he has a bright future. He was just in there with Bam, a freaking generational star, you know?
We'll see, man. We'll see what happens with Inoue, man. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Do you agree with like my points about how Bam isn't really ready for Inoue yet? I don't know. I mean, it's my
Yes, yes,
opinion.
I do. I think if Bam had 2 to 3 more fights at bantamweight, he would absolutely be ready for Inoue and be ready to move up when that time comes after 2 to 3 fights pass. But I don't think Inoue's trying to stick around. I think Inoue's proven everything he can prove at his division at this point, especially by beating Nakatani just a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I don't. I think Bam is, if he wants this fight, he's going to have to fight it without being fully ready, without being optimized in a way that most boxers would rather be if they were to take a super fight like this. So yeah, Bam wouldn't be. I think Bam can definitely use more time at bantamweight. Like that, it is not ideal for Bam to have one fight at bantamweight and then move up again to junior featherweight and take on the number one boxer, the number one active boxer in the world right now. Like, but I just think that time is slipping. Inoue's getting older. Inoue's getting bigger. He wants to move up. Bam is falling far behind if Inoue is to move up. So before we get that move up, let's get the Bam fight. Let's get the Bam fight, and then everyone can do whatever they want. Inoue can move up. Bam can go back down to bantamweight, or you know, scope out the end of his career because I know he's not going to be around for long, which is smart on his part. Um, and yeah, we'll see how it goes, man. But this was definitely a gem on the June matchups of the month, brought to us by Ring Magazine. We have a total of 4 more fights on the matchups of the month, and our next episode will be after all 4 fights on the matchups of the month have taken place. This upcoming weekend, we have Oscar Collazo defending the Ring WBA and WBO strawweight championship against the number 5 strawweight in the world, Joey Canoy. This is a big fight in the strawweight division. Very excited to see Golden Boy Oscar Collazo once again. Definitely a fun addition to this watch list for June in boxing. And then on the 24th, which is interesting, very uncommon in the world of boxing, on Wednesday the 24th, we have Lewis Crocker taking on Liam Paro for the IBF welterweight title. We just talked about crowning an interim IBF welterweight champion, but we will be potentially in Zuffa, right? We talked about that earlier. And again, that's pure speculation. That's pure imagination. I'm not saying that's confirmed, but this is confirmed. Lewis Crocker will be taking on Liam Paro for the IBF welterweight title. Should be very interesting. It's not common. It's not usual that we get a fight on a Wednesday, especially a title fight on a Wednesday. So that'll be cool. We'll tune in for that. And then, of course, the weekend of the 27th and the 28th, on Saturday the 27th, we have the number 3 super welterweight in the world taking on the number 5 super welterweight in the world as Xander Zayas takes on Boots Ennis. Xander Zayas is defending the WBA and WBO super welterweight championship in this bout. This is a humongous fight that we are very excited to see. We've seen nothing but dominance from both of these guys. One's been around for a minute, the other is fairly young and up and coming in terms of being, a unified champion in boxing. So that's going to be a magnificent, gigantic fight. And then, of course, 24 hours later, we do have Zuffa Boxing 8. And the main event of Zuffa 8 does round out the June matchups of the month, as Jose Valenzuela will take on Edwin De Los Santos for a second time. The co-main will see Omar Trinidad take on Jerwin Ancajas in a featherweight bout. And then the opening bout will be Kane Sandoval returning to Zuffa in a welterweight bout against Brandon Lee. Should be good boxing, man. We have one big fight this upcoming weekend, and that is Collazo versus Canoy. And then the next weekend, we have two big shows. The first big show is, of course, Zayas versus Ennis, and then Zuffa 8 24 hours later. Very fun time to be a fan. We are more than spoiled as boxing fans these days. A lot of boxing to talk about on what is supposed to be, of course, a UFC centric episode. But man, boxing is coming, man. They got their foot on the gas and they are looking to evolve quickly into everything they can be with opposition on their mind. What are your thoughts, man? What are you excited for most out of those four fights that I just mentioned to close us out here today?
Definitely Ennis versus Zayas. Obviously, like I said, I followed them both for a long time. Obviously, going back to the top ranked days, and I definitely am excited for Colazo and Canoy, and also, of course, definitely Crocker and Bottle. I think that's gonna be a good fight. That'll be fun. But I'm just gonna close it out with definitely. I'll say this about I'll say this about fucking or whoops, my bad. I'll say this about Crocker and Pato. If Pato if Crocker wins, the Patty Donovan rematch is imminent. It has to happen. And if Pato wins, you got to have a welterweight unification, whether it's with Ryan Garcia or Devin Haney, or even some potential Australian super fights. But we'll see. I mean, and then obviously for Colazo and Canoy, I think someone's getting dropped. Obviously, I think the one of those two is going to get dropped, and it'll be interesting. But I'll definitely close it out with Zayas and Boots, since that's the fight I'm obviously looking forward to the most. This is one of the best fights boxing can make right now. No tune-up, no soft touch, no waiting around. Undefeated, undefeated, unified champion in Xander Zayas against arguably probably the most gifted fighter in boxing, not named Inoue, Usyk, or Crawford. Both men are risking everything, and obviously somebody's has to go. So obviously, my keys to victory, I'll start with Xander Zayas. Discipline and distance. Zayas has one of the best jabs at 154. He needs sharp footwork, stay off the ropes, control your range, and make Boots reset constantly. If this becomes a boxing match, Zayas can absolutely win this fight and absolutely win the rounds. For Boots, control the violence. Control the violence, actually. The biggest mistake Boots can make is trying to score a viral knockout. And he's done it in the past, but you're not going to do it against Xander Zayas. You need to use your size, work the body. You got to cut off the ring. You have to do it like how you've done before, and you got to force the exchanges. Once Boots gets comfortable, he becomes one of the most dangerous offensive fighters in the sport, and I'm sure you're aware of that as well. And obviously, the biggest questions going into this is can Zayas handle Boots' athleticism? We've seen Xander Zayas against world class opponents, obviously going back to the top rank days and even post top rank, but we've never seen him against someone who combines speed, power, southpaw angles, and killer instincts the way Boots does. And the X factor here is definitely the weight class. Boots looks enormous at 147. And many people believe 145 is or 154 may actually be his best division physically. But I don't know, man. I this fight's gonna be really close. I as much as I would like to say Xander Zayas wins, I think I'm going Boots Ennis, man. I think round 10 or 11, I'm going knockout for Boots, man. But
I could
what a
see this
way, man.
being
What
I
a
could see this being a huge crowning moment for either boxer here. I'm with you though. I think Boots. I got an intuitive feeling about Boots winning this fight, but it is a huge fight to your point, man. And
yeah, and
yeah,
I
man.
love Xander, bro. I love Xander Zayas.
Yeah,
Like I said, man, I made it abundantly clear. I've been following him since the top ranked days, and but I think he's taking the loss here, man. But yeah, like you said, man, like we are spoiled for boxing, bro. Like we really are. Like obviously this is supposed to be a very UFC centric show, and I thought we did really good covering the UFC today. I thought we did really well, and but like you said, man, we are spoiled for boxing, and
it's really
what a
just
time to
a
be alive, dude.
testament to how active boxing is right now.
Yes,
The
dude.
weekend that is supposed to be for the UFC, and we still have a lot to talk about with Bam. We still have a lot to talk about with Zuffa announcements. We haven't even gotten any big Zuffa announcements, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of big stuff that they are trying to do in the second half of 2026 that's going to come to light sooner rather than later, and I'm excited to see how it goes, man. I think there's no negatives, man. Even seeing, Zuffa and the IBF kind of kiss and make up. We hope for Opataya to be reinstated as IBF cruiserweight champion.
I hope so,
So
man.
if that happens, then we are sitting very pretty. I think Zuffa is currently shifting to redefine itself as a mainstay for IBF and WBO world champions. And I think that's right on par with what they should be. They should be the middle class of boxing. Their champions should be workhorses, and anything above that can get handled by Turkey Al Sheikh. I think that's perfect. Um, yeah, I hate to sound like who's the Sunday Night Football announcer that always meat rides Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, Collinsworth.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like Chris Collinsworth, but for Zuffa. I'm only doing it because they're making things interesting. Okay,
I feel like
I
Joe
have no
Buck, bro.
allegiance. I like good boxing,
No,
and honestly, with
I'm like Romo, dude, with the fuck with the Zuffa and UFC, bro. Like I'm not even joking. I try not to, like I said, meat ride anybody, but like, come on, man. Like we've been like since this show started, bro. Like Zuffa's just been killing it, man. And
I do think that they're a big reason as to why boxing is huge right now.
oh
Like
yeah,
I think if Zuffa didn't exist, I think Turkey Al Sheikh would still be moving a lot slower like he was in 2025.
yeah,
But I
for sure.
think with the kickstart existence of Zuffa, I think Turkey Al Sheikh is cranking it up a notch. And the current powers, the current forces in boxing are realizing that they got to get with the program or move out of the way. So, man, this is very exciting. We're going to have those four fights on the June matchups of the month here to analyze on the next episode. Not this weekend, but the next weekend, which will be essentially the last weekend of June. That will be the next time you see us. We'll talk about Boots versus Zayas. We'll talk about Goyazo versus Kanoy. We'll talk about the IBF welterweight title. And then we'll also talk about, of course, Zuffa Boxing 8. And we'll be looking forward to Zuffa Boxing 9 that will be taking place in New York, as well as other great fights from Ring Magazine, from the PBC in July. So that's all I got, man. If you want to sign us out, if you want me to, I can. But Shit, man, we're at an hour and 10 minutes. I think we
Yeah,
should
we
let the
are,
people
bro.
go. It
Yeah,
happens, bro. We had a lot to talk about.
it's all right, man. But I guess I'll close it out, man. Real quick, I just want to give a shout out to my brother, my guy, the greatest fucking host in the world, man, Matt, aka Wrestling's Bullshit. I want to give a shout out. I want to say rest in peace to the OG big dog, Mr. Carlos Carrasco. Love you, man. I want to give a shout out to my family. I want to give a shout out to San Antonio, Texas, as well as Colorado. Shout out all you guys. 2-0 represent. Fortunately, Spurs lost, so whatever. But I am Ant, aka Boxing is Bullshit, aka Heel Synergy, aka whatever. And we will see you guys on the next one. This has been the Lights Out Podcast, and we will see you in the next one. Boom! Woo! Let's go!